Today, we're going to be looking at the rise of dictators. We're starting Unit 5, which will focus on World War II. So, these are notes number 1, and we'll be looking at Joseph Stalin, Benito Mussolini, and Adolf Hitler, and seeing how they came to power, the tactics that they use, and kind of what was unique about their totalitarian regimes. Failures of the World War I peace. For many nations, peace had brought not prosperity but revolution, fueled by economic depression and struggle. Germans saw nothing fair in the treaty that blamed them for starting the war. They were stripped of overseas colonies and border territories and expected to pay off huge debts. So not only did they have to pay for the rebuilding of their country and the destruction from the war, but they had to also pay these reparations to other countries like England and France. So these problems overwhelmed the new democratic Weimar Republic and sent the German economy into heavy inflation. So this is a very famous photo of kids playing with, basically these are stacks of money. So with inflation, the government kept just printing money. So the money had no value. It would cost maybe 1,000,000 marks. A mark was a German dollar, essentially, just to buy a loaf of bread, and the price would be constantly changing. So it was more useful to kids to play with, as opposed to even going to buy anything with that money. So they were in a very, very deep depression. So, the rise of nationalism. The post war years brought the rise of powerful dictators driven by the belief of nationalism, loyalty to one's country above all else. So, definitely this post war state in which people were in a depression, things were not good, allowed for these dictators to kind of take over, finding this situation basically kind of like ripe for the taking. So we are looking at Joseph Stalin with the Soviet Union, Adolf Hitler in Germany, and then Benito Mussolini in Italy. We will not be focusing on Francisco Franco in Spain or talking about Japan quite yet. So we're just focusing on the three in Europe. So let's stop and think. What allowed for these totalitarian dictators to rise during the 30s and some of them the 1920s? Definitely that post-war state where things are just kind of a mess. There's no clear leader. It allows for them to come to power. Whenever you have situations where there's an economic depression and people don't have jobs, they're looking for someone to give them hope. And we'll see that a lot of these leaders had those qualities to kind of perpetuate the fact that people should believe in them. So Joseph Stalin transforms the Soviet Union. In Russia, hopes for democracy gave way to civil war, resulting in the establishment of a communist state, officially called the Soviet Union in 1922. In 1924, Joseph Stalin took control of the country. He focused on making a model communist state by making both agriculture and industrial growth the prime economic goals of the Soviet Union. Stalin moved to transform the Soviet Union from a backward rural nation into a great industrial power. All economic activity would be placed under the control of the state. And so there could be no businesses started, nothing new grown unless it was decided by the government. So these decisions were made on an individual basis. By 1937, the Soviet Union had become the world's second largest industrial power, only behind the United States. Totalitarian leader. By 1939, Stalin had firmly established a totalitarian government that tried to exert complete control over its citizens. In a totalitarian state, individuals have no rights and the government suppresses all opposition. So there are no challenges to their government. Whatever the media or the press, newspapers write has to be approved by the government. There can be no critique or criticism. Businesses have to sell whatever the government tells them to sell. Could be also secret police that monitor what people are saying to ensure there's no overthrow of the government. So it's literally that you have no individuality, no personal freedom, and all aspects of your life are controlled by the government. In Stalin's drive to purge or eliminate anyone who threatened his power, he did not even spare his most faithful supporters. Historians estimate that Stalin was responsible for the deaths of 8 million to 13 million people throughout his reign, jailing political opponents, anyone that spoke out against him, anyone that was even remotely suspected of those types of crimes were sent away to prisons, to like concentration like camps, and millions more died of famine caused by the restructuring of Soviet society. The rise of fascism in Italy. By 1921, Benito Mussolini had established the Fascist Party in Italy. He played on people's fears of economic collapse and communism. So, whereas in the Soviet Union, they accepted communism and they liked communism, or at least initially, fascism is on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. They hate communism and they want nothing to do with it. Fascism stressed nationalism and placed the interest of the state above those of the individuals. So while they're different, they do have a lot of the same kind of goals in terms of putting the country first. To strengthen a nation, fascists argued that power must rest with a single strong leader and a small group of devoted party members. In October 1922, Mussolini marched on Rome with thousands of followers whose black uniforms gave them the name Black Shirts. Benito Mussolini. When important government officials, the army, and the police sided with the fascists, the Italian king appointed Mussolini as head of the government. So basically, just kind of like, okay, you're coming over. This was a coup. This is basically he went to take control of the government with his army and succeeded. Mussolini called himself Il Duce, or the leader. Mussolini gradually extended control to all aspects of Italian life and crushed all opposition, making Italy a totalitarian state. So another key thing in totalitarian, used by totalitarian dictators, is that they eliminate their opposition. So there's no one ever to challenge their authority or question their authority. Doesn't mean that people didn't do it, but once they did, they were sent away, sent to jail, they were killed, they were basically made to disappear. Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. At the end of World War I, Adolf Hitler had been a jobless soldier drifting around Germany. In 1919, he joined the National Socialist German Workers' Party, better known as the Nazis. So while they had the term socialist in their party name, it was more socialist, like social, we're together, unity, not socialist like socialism and communism. So like the fascists, the Nazis despised communism and wanted nothing to do with them. So the Nazis are more similar to kind of what Benito Mussolini and the fascists believe. Hitler proved to be a powerful public speaker and organizer that he quickly became the party's leader. He became known as Der Führer, the leader. In his book, Mein Kampf, My Struggle, Hitler set forth the basic beliefs of Nazism that became the plan of action for the Nazi Party. Nazism would become the German brand of fascism based on extreme nationalism. So again, extreme devotion to your country. It's all about your country first. What can you do to make Germany better, uplift Germany to a better status? The Nazis take over Germany. Hitler had a goal of uniting all German-speaking people in a great German empire. And so basically, in Austria, in parts of Czechoslovakia, and kind of spread out, there are many people that spoke German and had ties to Germanic heritage. So he wanted all of these people to be united in this great German empire. He also wanted to enforce racial purification at home. Another goal was expansion. Hitler believed that for Germany to thrive, it needed more Lebensraum, living space. The Great Depression helped the Nazis come to power. The German people were desperate and turned to Hitler as their last hope. By mid 1932, the Nazis had become the strongest political party in Germany. In January 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor or Prime Minister. Once in power, Hitler quickly dismantled Germany's Weimar Republic and established the Third Reich or German Empire. So once he was able to gain power, quote unquote, the right way through democratic means, having a majority, once in power, then dismantled the democratic Weimar Republic and established the Third Reich with himself as the sole leader. So, the faces of totalitarianism. So, we talked today about Benito Mussolini in fascist Italy, Adolf Hitler from Nazi Germany, and Joseph Stalin in communist Soviet Union. So, they definitely all had elements of totalitarianism in their control, wanting control over all aspect of life, but definitely differences in terms with Stalin having more of a communist approach and Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler with more of a fascist regime. So let's stop and think. What tactics did totalitarian dictators use to gain and keep power? Um, Definitely public speaking, the fact that they are natural leaders, they command a presence, people are drawn to them. I think that kind of allows for them to come to power easily. Then, once in power, the elimination of any enemies, obstacles, challengers, opposition, getting rid of anything that could potentially stand in their way, having total control over the media, what people are saying about them, ensuring that there is no rise up against their power. So, all of those tactics were used to gain power and to keep power. So we're done with these notes. Make sure you go back, look at your key terms, and just always review your notes and study throughout the unit.